I had always thought of myself as a fairly ordinary guy. My name is Alex, 22, a graphic designer by profession, living in a modest apartment downtown. My life had a comfortable rhythm. Long hours in front of the computer designing logos and websites, evenings spent with friends or binge-watching shows, weekends filled with errands, and the occasional night out with Emma. Life was steady, predictable, and safe.
Emma.
She was my girlfriend of 2 years, smart, playful, and adventurous in ways that constantly made me feel alive. Our relationship thrived on mutual curiosity, playful challenges, and the occasional teasing competition. She had a mischievous streak I both adored and feared, the kind that could turn an ordinary day into an unforgettable adventure or an embarrassing ordeal. I never imagined that one simple night would change everything. It started innocently enough. I went to bed as usual after a long day, feeling exhausted but satisfied. Emma was already asleep, curled up with a book in her hand, her soft breathing filling the room with a comforting rhythm. I turned off my bedside lamp, slid under the covers, and closed my eyes, thinking of nothing more than sleep. But when I woke up, something felt off. My body didn't feel like my own. My hands were delicate, slender, and soft, completely unlike the strong, calloused hands I was used to. I sat up and glanced at the reflection in the nearby mirror and froze. It wasn't just the hands. My entire body had changed. My shoulders were narrower, my chest different, and my legs longer and smoother than I'd ever known. Panic surged as I ran my fingers through hair that fell past my shoulders in soft waves. My face looked entirely unfamiliar, perfectly feminine, as though it had been sculpted by an artist who had studied every delicate contour. "What the?" I whispered, my voice light, melodic, undeniably hers. My heart raced as I struggled to process what I was seeing. This couldn't be real. Yet every glance at my reflection confirmed it. I was no longer Alex, the man I had always known. I had somehow woken up as a perfect lady. Panic gave way to curiosity. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, feeling the strange, elegant weight of my new form. My movements were different, more fluid, more deliberate. Every gesture carried an unaccustomed grace, as if my body had been rewritten to move like this. Emma stirred beside me, murmuring softly in her sleep. I froze. She didn't seem aware, yet the thought of her discovering this change terrified me. How could I explain this? What would she think? Would she recognize me at all? I tried to remember the last few hours before sleep, searching for a rational explanation, dreams, medication, a strange fever. Nothing came to mind, and yet the evidence was undeniable. I was her in every possible sense of the word. A part of me panicked, thinking about my life, my identity, my career. Another part, a part one had never dared acknowledge, felt a strange thrill. The thrill of transformation, of being someone else, even temporarily. I had experimented with crossdressing before, modestly and in secret, but nothing like this. This was beyond choice, beyond experimentation. This was immersion, total and absolute. I got out of bed carefully, testing my balance in this new body. Every step felt delicate, every movement a negotiation with muscles and bones that were unfamiliar, yet inherently graceful. I moved toward the mirror again, studying myself with a mix of fear, fascination, and something I couldn't quite name. My reflection stared back, flawless and almost intimidating in its perfection. The first moments alone were a swirl of disbelief and anxiety. But then I remembered Emma. She was the first person I wanted to see, both to reassure myself that this wasn't a dream and to gauge her reaction. My mind raced with possibilities. Would she be scared? Amused? Curious? Perhaps she would be delighted, seeing it as the ultimate playful challenge. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my thoughts. This new body, this new persona, it wasn't just a physical transformation. It was an emotional one, a plunge into a reality that challenged every assumption I had about myself. And somehow I knew that the night wasn't over, that this change was only the beginning. I moved quietly, testing the doorknob, stepping carefully toward the living room. Everything seemed surreal, the soft glow of the streetlights filtering through the curtains, the familiar apartment now a stage for something entirely unexpected. I could hear Emma stirring in her sleep again, murmuring my name with a sleepy confusion that made my stomach twist. And then I realized I wasn't just Alex anymore. I was someone new, someone beautiful, delicate, and undeniably feminine. The question that struck me most forcefully and with a thrill of terror was this: how would I navigate this night, this transformation, and, most importantly, how would Emma react when she saw me like this? The anticipation of the unknown, the thrill of the impossible, and the fear of exposure combined into a single pulse of adrenaline. This wasn't just a night of change. It was the night that would redefine everything I thought I knew about myself, my relationship, and the boundaries of identity. I spent the first few moments in a daze, staring at my reflection. My fingers traced the contours of my face, marveling at the softness of my cheeks, the arch of my brows, and the delicate curve of my lips. Every feature was unerringly perfect, almost as if designed to evoke admiration. The realization hit me: I wasn't just different, I was flawless. But along with the awe came panic. I had no idea how this happened. There was no note, no magic spell, no scientific explanation. One moment, I was Alex, the man who lived a predictable life. The next, I was a woman who could only hope to maintain some semblance of composure. I tiptoed to the living room, each step an exercise in balance. My legs, now long and shapely, felt unfamiliar, every movement more conscious than instinctual. I had experimented with crossdressing before, mostly in private, brief sessions, but this was total immersion. There was no turning back, no casual shrug of a costume. This was my body now. Emma stirred awake on the sofa, rubbing her eyes and murmuring something incoherent. Her gaze met mine, and for a moment, panic struck like a lightning bolt. Would she recognize me? Would she freak out? But then she blinked, and her expression softened, curiosity overtaking confusion. "Alex," she asked cautiously. I swallowed hard, my new voice lilting and melodic. "It's me, I think." My tone wavered, betraying the nervousness I felt inside. She blinked several times, then laughed softly. "You're different," she said, half teasing, half uncertain. "Wait, is this a joke?" I shook my head, unable to articulate the surreal nature of the transformation. My hands shook slightly, brushing against the soft fabric of the pajama top that now fit snugly around my new form. "I don't know how. I just woke up like this." Her eyes widened, but there was no judgment, only fascination. "Wow, you look amazing," she admitted, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. Her reaction ignited a mixture of relief and anxiety in me. Relief that she wasn't angry, anxious that she might take this as permission to push further. I retreated to the bedroom to examine myself more thoroughly. My closet now seemed both familiar and foreign. The clothes I had once worn as Alex, baggy shirts, jeans, and t-shirts, felt entirely incompatible with this new body. I realized that if I wanted to feel comfortable, I would need to experiment with something entirely different. Curiosity mingled with a hint of fear. I opened the drawers, sifting through fabrics, textures, and colors. I found a dress Emma had left over from a recent party, a soft, flowing number with a delicate floral pattern. I hesitated, then slipped into it. The sensation was electric. The fabric caressed my skin in ways I hadn't experienced before, and the mirror reflected someone I barely recognized yet strangely admired. The heels came next. I had never worn them seriously before, but instinct guided me. Sliding my feet into them, I wobbled slightly, then caught my balance. Every step felt precarious, but empowering. The sensation of elevated posture, the sway of the dress, the subtle pressure of the heels, it all amplified the thrill of transformation. But excitement quickly collided with fear. I had to move carefully. One wrong step, one accidental stumble in front of Emma, and the illusion would be shattered. The idea of being exposed, even to someone I trusted, sent a shiver down my spine. I realized that this wasn't just a physical challenge. It was emotional, psychological, and deeply personal. I practiced walking, adjusting posture, shifting weight subtly to accommodate the unfamiliar heels. Each step was a negotiation with my body, a delicate dance between vulnerability and confidence. Emma watched silently, her presence both reassuring and intimidating. I could feel her attention as a tangible force, assessing every movement, every reaction. As I experimented with different outfits and poses, I felt a strange sense of exhilaration. This wasn't just crossdressing, it was a complete immersion into an identity I had only ever explored in fleeting moments. I had to navigate this body, this persona, with care, balancing authenticity with caution. But then came the internal struggle. I questioned my motivations, my identity, and my feelings. Was I merely experimenting with appearance, or was there something deeper at play? A hidden part of me, long suppressed, was finally being expressed. I felt a mixture of shame, curiosity, excitement, and fear, all swirling together into a potent emotional cocktail. The suspense escalated when Emma suggested we try a playful experiment. "Why don't you walk around like this for a while?" she said with a mischievous smile. "See how it feels to be a perfect lady." My heart raced. The idea of moving in public, even within the apartment, with someone observing was terrifying. Yet the thrill was undeniable. I knew that each step, each pose, each sway of the hips was a test of composure, balance, and self-assurance. I walked from room to room, testing the terrain. The couch, the table, the rug, all became obstacles, subtle challenges to my new body and elevated posture. Every step was calculated, every movement deliberate, and every glance in the mirror a reminder of both my vulnerability and my growing confidence. Hours passed in a blur of experimentation. I laughed nervously at myself, stumbled occasionally, and marveled at the grace that seemed almost natural despite my initial clumsiness. Emma watched silently, occasionally offering encouragement, her presence amplifying both my anxiety and exhilaration. The evening approached, and with it, a rising tension. Every sound, footsteps outside, a door closing, a distant horn, felt magnified. I realized that the suspense wasn't just about maintaining composure, it was about the constant threat of exposure, the delicate balance of secrecy and revelation. And then I felt it, the intoxicating thrill of transformation, the vulnerability of being observed, and the emotional rush of inhabiting a new persona. This wasn't a simple experiment anymore. It was a journey into self-discovery, identity, and the complex interplay of fear, desire, and curiosity. By the time night fell fully, I had walked, posed, and experimented enough to feel a fragile confidence. I was still Alex, yet undeniably someone else. The suspense, the thrill, and the emotional intensity had transformed me in ways I couldn't have anticipated. I realized that the night was far from over. The challenges, the discoveries, and the surprises were just beginning. By now, I had grown more comfortable in my new body, but comfort was a fragile illusion. Each step, each glance in the mirror reminded me of the precarious balance I was trying to maintain. Emma's presence was comforting, yet it also intensified the suspense. She seemed calm, but I knew that at any moment, a misstep could shatter the delicate equilibrium. It started subtly. A knock on the door, a neighbor, perhaps, or a package delivery. My pulse quickened. I wobbled slightly in my heels, gripping the edge of the table for stability. Emma glanced toward the door, her expression unreadable, and I felt a thrill of fear shoot through me. Whoever it was, they might see me like this. My secret exposed. "Don't panic," Emma whispered, sensing my tension. "Stay calm." I nodded, though my hands shook. Every sound was magnified. The ticking of the clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint creak of the floorboards. I realized that suspense wasn't just external, it was internal. My own mind had become a trap of anticipation and anxiety. The knock came again, louder this time. I approached the door slowly, balancing on heels that suddenly fell far too high. My reflection in the hallway mirror caught my attention. I looked poised, elegant, flawless, but I was trembling inside. I peeked through the peephole and froze. It wasn't just a neighbor. Someone had come unexpectedly, someone I knew would ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. Panic surged, but so did a strange thrill. My vulnerability was being tested, and part of me reveled in it. Emma's hand found mine, squeezing gently. "You've got this," she murmured. Her touch was grounding, yet the suspense remained razor-sharp. I opened the door cautiously. The visitor's eyes widened slightly, an eyebrow raised in surprise. I froze, caught between fear and a strange, electric excitement. My posture, the dress, the heels, it all screamed feminine perfection. Yet inside, I was Alex, terrified of discovery. As the visitor stepped inside, I felt my heart pound. Questions came, innocent, casual, but each one felt like a potential trap. I responded carefully, my new voice soft and melodic, testing the boundaries of this unexpected reality. Emma watched silently, a faint smirk playing on her lips. It was as if she was both enjoying the suspense and orchestrating it. Every glance she gave me reminded me that she knew more than she let on, and that realization both thrilled and unnerved me. Then came the twist. The lights flickered. A sudden power surge? A coincidence? The room plunged into shadows, and I stumbled slightly, catching myself on the edge of the sofa. The visitor froze, sensing something unusual. My secret, so carefully guarded, was dangling by a thread. In the dark, I felt my confidence waver. Each step, each motion became an exercise in nerve and balance. I realized that this transformation was no longer just about appearance. It was about maintaining composure under pressure, about navigating fear, desire, and curiosity all at once. Emma stepped closer, her presence a mixture of reassurance and challenge. "You look amazing," she whispered, her breath warm against my ear. "Now show me, really show me." The adrenaline surged. I moved, testing my limits in heels that suddenly seemed higher, in a dress that felt both protective and exposing. My reflection in the small hallway mirror caught my eye. I was poised, elegant, yet trembling with every heartbeat. Every glance from the visitor, every shadow in the room, heightened the tension. Then the real obstacle appeared. A sudden knock from another room, a neighbor? A friend? Someone who had arrived unexpectedly? I froze mid-step, my balance wavering. Emma's eyes widened, a hint of mischief in her gaze. I realized she had orchestrated more than I had anticipated. The suspense was no longer just about my secret. It was about my ability to navigate a maze of social traps, heightened by my new persona. I moved cautiously, each step deliberate, each sway of the hips calculated. The heels pressed against my feet, uncomfortable yet intoxicating. My hands trembled slightly as I adjusted the dress, smoothing the fabric against my skin. I felt both vulnerable and powerful, a paradox that electrified every nerve. The visitor's gaze lingered, curiosity and subtle admiration in their eyes. My pulse raced. Was I convincing? Did I look like a perfect lady, or was the illusion slipping? The tension escalated as I realized that one false move could unravel everything. Emma whispered, guiding me subtly, her hands brushing mine occasionally. The intimacy of her touch, combined with the suspense of potential discovery, sent a shiver through me. I was navigating a world where appearance, emotion, and identity collided, each moment a test of nerve and composure. Then, disaster, or so it seemed. My heel caught on the rug. I stumbled, reaching for balance, the dress shifting precariously. My heart leapt into my throat. Would I fall? Would the visitor see me for who I truly was beneath the perfect exterior? But Emma was quick, steadying me with a laugh and a whispered word of encouragement. "It's okay, you're perfect." The phrase, simple yet loaded, grounded me. I adjusted, found my rhythm again, and continued moving through the room. Each step, each gesture, was a delicate dance, a negotiation between fear and exhilaration. The suspense was tangible, electrifying, almost unbearable. Finally, the visitor left, offering polite farewells, unaware of the storm they had witnessed. I sank onto the sofa, breathless, my heels slightly scuffed, my dress slightly rumpled, my heart pounding. The adrenaline lingered, mingled with relief and the intoxicating thrill of survival. Emma's eyes met mine, her smile a mix of amusement and pride. "You handled that beautifully," she said softly. "But the night isn't over, not by a long shot." I realized then that this transformation, this new identity, was only the beginning. The suspense, the thrill, the emotional highs and lows, they weren't just challenges. They were an invitation into a world where identity, desire, and fear intertwined in ways I had never imagined. And as the night stretched on, I understood that the true climax wasn't a single moment of danger. It was the entire experience, the dance of exposure and concealment, vulnerability and power, fear and exhilaration. It was a night that would linger in my memory forever, a night that had transformed me in ways I could barely comprehend. By the early hours of the morning, exhaustion had begun to seep into my muscles. My heels felt heavier, my legs ached, and my fingers were tingling from nervous tension. Yet despite the fatigue, my mind was wide awake, buzzing with adrenaline and anticipation. Every glance at the mirror reminded me that I wasn't just Alex anymore. I had become someone entirely new, someone captivating, delicate, and dangerously alluring. Emma lounged on the sofa nearby, a small, knowing smile on her lips. She had watched me navigate every step of the night with a mix of amusement and admiration. I had survived the suspense, mastered the physicality of this transformation, and yet, somehow, the night still felt unfinished. A sudden sound snapped me out of my thoughts, the soft click of the front door. My heart stopped. Could Emma have forgotten something? Was it someone else returning unexpectedly? Every instinct screamed that I should hide, retreat, change back, but my new body, my new confidence refused. I froze, poised on the balls of my feet and my heels, my breath shallow and rapid. The doorknob turned slowly. Whoever it was paused for a moment in the doorway, and my stomach dropped. My mind raced. Would they recognize me? Would they see the perfect lady in the mirror as Alex, the man they had always known? The fear was intoxicating, a sharp spike of suspense that made every nerve in my body tingle. Emma leaned closer, whispering, "Stay calm, just act natural." Her reassurance should have grounded me, but instead it magnified the tension. My reflection in the hallway mirror stared back, flawless and feminine, yet trembling with vulnerability. I realized then that the true test wasn't just surviving the night, it was surviving the perception of others, maintaining this persona under scrutiny. A shadow appeared at the edge of the doorway. I squinted, trying to make out features in the dim light. My heart raced faster, the heels pinching my feet, the dress brushing against my skin like an electric reminder of every step I had taken tonight. Every instinct screamed to retreat, yet my curiosity, my thrill, kept me rooted. Emma's hand found mine again, steadying me, grounding me. Her touch was both comforting and daring, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this, yet challenging me to embrace it fully. I could feel her excitement, her silent encouragement, and it emboldened me in ways I hadn't expected. The shadow moved closer. I held my breath, caught between fear and exhilaration. The door opened wider, revealing only a silhouette at first, an ambiguous figure whose identity I couldn't yet discern. My pulse thundered in my ears, my chest tight with anticipation. Each heartbeat felt like a drumbeat in a suspenseful symphony, echoing the tension of the night. Then, a voice cut through the silence. Familiar, teasing, yet laced with curiosity. "Well, aren't you different?" My stomach dropped. The words were simple, yet loaded with implication. I realized that the night wasn't over. The suspense hadn't just lingered, it had escalated. My secret, my transformation, was now teetering on the edge of discovery. Every thought, every feeling, every step I had taken led to this moment. I glanced at Emma, who gave me a sly, almost mischievous smile. Her eyes seemed to say, You've done wonderfully, but let's see what happens next. I stood there, frozen, caught between exhilaration and dread. My heels pinched my feet, my dress clung perfectly, my reflection glimmered in the mirror. And yet, my heart raced with uncertainty. Who would see me next? What would they think? Would my secret be safe, or would the night's thrilling transformation unravel in an instant? The figure stepped closer, the dim light revealing more, but not enough. The suspense was unbearable. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, only watch, caught in the perfect tension of vulnerability and anticipation. My mind raced with scenarios, each one more terrifying and tantalizing than the last. And then, just as the figure came fully into view, the scene froze in my mind, unresolved, suspended in suspense. The perfect lady I had become, the man I still was inside, the thrill, the fear, the vulnerability, it all hung in the balance. The audience is left with a single, lingering question. What happens next? Will I be discovered? Will Emma intervene, protect me, or escalate the suspense even further? The night and my new identity remain unresolved, teasing the imagination, inviting speculation, and leaving viewers on the edge of their seats.